Good morning, everyone. We're at Alki Beach here in the great Pacific Northwest. Today it's going to be a great show. We're talking to Nick Brown. He's running for Attorney General for the state of Washington. One of the first topics is going to be talking about the underground economy. And then another issue we're going to talk about is crime that's happening on job sites and some of the crime issues that our employers are dealing with. And then we're going to get to know a little bit about Nick so you can understand where he stands and why we endorsed him. So Nick, you're running for Attorney General.
Yep. We launched our campaign this summer and really excited about how things are going so far.
That's great. And you grew up in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Yeah, Washington's home. I grew up in Pierce County, right down by Fort Lewis. My father was stationed down there, so we moved up here when I was 2, and Washington's home. Grew up in Steilacoom, a little small town right on the water down there by JBLM.
Nice town. So, did you go to college here in the state of Washington?
No, I left. I went to high school, or elementary all through high school here, and then I left to go to college in Georgia at Morehouse College. Went out there on a Army ROTC scholarship to pay for school, which was a great start for me. And then I went off to law school at Harvard up in Boston, and then started my legal career as an Army lawyer on active duty.
What was that like? So is that called like JAG?
JAG, yeah.
What does that term mean?
Judge Advocate General.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's Tom Cruise and A Few Good Men. Like that was
I love
me,
it.
right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I was active duty for 4 years. Basically, you're just a lawyer in the Army representing soldiers and family members. And then I did some family law, consumer protection, and then I found my way into the courtroom. First, I was defending soldiers. Loved it, and then became a prosecutor. But I traveled all over the world on active duty. Was in El Paso, Texas. Went to Baghdad, Iraq during the war with the 3rd Infantry Division out of Fort Stewart, Georgia. So I was over there traveling, defending soldiers, and then came back here and finished up at Fort Lewis. I loved being an Army lawyer. You get to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You're working with people from across the country. It's great.
That's fascinating. And so now you have a family now that lives.
Yep.
You live here in the Seattle area.
Yeah, we live in Seattle, and I've got a 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. They keep me busy.
yeah. That's a full-time job in
Yeah.
itself, right?
We just finished soccer season. I was coaching my son's team, so I had a bunch of 8 and 9-year-olds.
And you're a
around.
coach too.
Yeah,
I
love being a soccer coach.
Yeah,
It's,
right. Yeah.
Keeps me close to them, and it's also like the one time of the week I'm not thinking about anything else other than how do I manage these boys. Got a good season. My daughter plays too. So yeah, they're 5th and 3rd graders and keep me busy.
And I was excited to hear, and I know a lot of our members are. And we have 5 states, but I am from Washington, and I am a Husky fan, and I just heard you were.
Yeah, well,
and
for sure.
we got another
championship tonight.
Yeah, we got the championship tonight, so we'll see how that plays out.
I know the Dogs are 9.5-point underdogs, but they don't lose.
No,
so we'll see how it goes.
What is the Attorney General's job in the state of Washington? I want to know a little bit more about it, and I know our members do. So.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility. You are the lawyer for the state of Washington. So a big part of the job is just representing all the various governmental entities and agencies across the state. So you think about Department of Transportation, Department of Commerce, whatever, the state agency, all those folks need lawyers to help do their job so they can best serve the public. So a lot of our work is just representing those agencies, defending them against lawsuits. That's a big chunk. A separate part of it, because you're a separate constitutional officer. We elect the AG separately than the governor, and that's important because the AG has independent authority to bring cases in consumer protection cases. So when companies are defrauding people, we can sue them and litigate those cases. We can bring civil rights cases on behalf of people in the state. We can go after big national issues as well. If there's wrongdoing happening from federal government or other states, you can sue those states on behalf of the people of the state of Washington. So that's a big chunk. And the AG has independent authority to advance policy issues too. So you think about all the challenges that we're having now in the state around housing, around public safety issues, around transportation, everything. The AG can bring request legislation and try to write new laws with the legislature. But there's a ton of challenges right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're dealing with issues in our economy where people are feeling really stretched thin by the differences in economic situations. We're dealing with crime and public safety issues that we're just trying to get our minds around how we keep people safe. We're dealing with lots of external challenges on the environmental issues, on challenges to our democracy, healthcare issues. And these are big, big, important challenges, and the AG, right, as the chief lawyer for the state, gets to play a role in all that. So
right. Yeah,
exciting.
no, we're excited that you get to tackle that responsibility.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about working with the Biden administration.
Yeah. So
that's exciting.
For sure. 2.5 years ago, I was nominated by President Biden to be the U.S. Attorney for the district. So you're essentially the chief federal law enforcement officer for Western Washington. So Bellingham to Longview to the Cascades was our jurisdiction. And that means that I was the chief person responsible for all the federal indictments in Washington state. So working with state and local law enforcement officers to try to figure out how we bring the right cases and have an impact. And then you're the lead lawyer for all the defensive work. So, when somebody sues the federal government, you defend them, and then you lead all the affirmative stuff. So we can bring consumer protection cases against people committing civil violations, all the affirmative civil rights work you could do on behalf of the people of Western Washington. I was the chair of the Civil Rights Subcommittee for all the U.S. attorneys in the country. And that was a real opportunity just to get to know people across the country and figure out how we tackle these things. So it was nice being out here because you're away from DC, right? So you don't have Main Justice all up in your business. But to have some connection to the Biden administration and the Department of Justice was a really proud moment for me, for sure.
Okay, so what do you do for fun? Okay, so I always ask this question. So if we're going on a road trip to Spokane and a campaign, what kind of music you like to listen to?
I'm a kid of the 90s, and I grew up here, and I have a really strange mix of old school hip hop and kind of grunge.
Excellent, Yeah, so we're dealing with a lot of crime in Seattle and the greater Seattle area with our membership, and our employers have brought this up with me, and I didn't really realize it, and I looked some of the information up is they have gang boxes where they have their tools. They're coming back the next morning from working on these job sites, and they're broken into. They'll be working on service work, and they'll go back to their truck and they'll find out that their tools are missing, so they really have to come up with creative ways for their tools not to be stolen or just. And the other thing, we've had some members injured from crime. So how do you feel on that, or what would you do to solve that, or how can we work together?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost we have to talk about crime as being a real issue, public safety as being a real issue.
Right.
The data shows that it's up in some really important areas from past years, and even beyond just the data, like people are feeling unsafe in their communities in different ways. And first and foremost, we want to have a state where people feel safe, where their kids can walk to school and they feel comfortable, where they can go to work and do their jobs and not worry about some of these issues. So recognizing the seriousness of the problem, I think, is the first thing that we need to do as elected officials in trying to help. There's a huge amount of challenges as we address these issues, because there are no simple answers to these issues, but we need to hold people accountable that commits crimes. We need to help people that are finding themselves more vulnerable to committing crimes and to being victims of crimes. There is not some magic button that we can just push to solve these things, but it does take a combination of law enforcement and prosecutors, and that's most of my background. It takes really heavily serious investment in drug counseling and mental health treatment. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is just the impact of housing and the housing crisis we're having, not only in Seattle, but across Washington. Because if people don't have a safe and safe place to live, they spend more time on the street, they find themselves breaking into cars, stealing stuff from people. Those are big problems. The other thing we've seen a real rise is retail theft and organized retail theft, where people are taking things not only from stores, but from work sites and selling those online. We have these online Facebook forums, Amazon forums, where they can sell stuff online. So they steal from a work site, tools or what have you, and they turn around and then sell those online on these online marketplaces. And those are things that didn't exist 5-10 years ago.
Right.
So as a state and as Attorney General, I really need to work hard to figure out what can we do to work with all these online marketplaces to make sure they're doing the checks that they need to do to prevent some of these issues from happening.
Yeah. This year we're running legislation to bring back the Underground Economy Task Force, where we work on issues to correct some of the bad behavior from we call them bad actors.
Yeah.
You know, what's happening is it's a cash system and they're not paying workers what they deserve.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on that? How could you help the painters and allied trades with that?
And this is a really serious issue, and you know, we touched on it a little bit, but not everybody recognizes how many people are impacted by an illegal and underground economy. And it's theft, and we don't think about it in the same way that we think about other issues. You know, if you see someone walk into Target and steal a television and walk out, everybody knows that's a crime.
Right.
When you have employers working in the underground economy and not following the laws and regulations that they're required to follow, and taking money from people who are doing that the right way and investing in the right way, that's crime. You know, and we just don't think about it in that same mindset.
Right.
One of the things I'd like to do as Attorney General is to make sure that we have a specific group, unit, division, what have you, in the AG's office that's specifically focused on labor-related issues. You know, we've got wage theft, we've got underground economy, we've got all kinds of workplace safety issues, all those areas that overlap, and I'd like to have a dedicated unit in the AG's office that can address these issues cohesively. And as you know, as the Attorney General, we can't pretend that we have all the answers, right? We have to work with labor.
Right.
We have to work with folks that are impacted to really understand where we can be a value add, and look across the country and say, you know, there are other states that have better, robust protections in place for workers around this underground economy and wage theft issues. So being, you know, open-minded and being engaged with our stakeholders and our partners on this is going to be really important.
Yeah, we really appreciate your stance on that, and we're looking forward to working with you down the road on that.
I appreciate it.
It really is important, and mainly our, you know, I talk about business. It's really affecting our business. It's certain areas it's hard to compete and make payroll. To be honest with you, so.
Well, you know, one of the things that's interesting is right now Washington has just under, I think, 8 million people. We're scheduled to add 1 million by 2030 and 2 million by 2040.
Wow.
Those folks need jobs, they need schools, they need places to live, they need a transportation system that works. And if we have people that and businesses and workers that don't feel comfortable working in certain areas, we're not going to build and develop all the infrastructure and jobs and housing that we need. And so tackling some of the crime and justice problems is going to be really important towards that.
I really appreciate your time today. This has been a great conversation. So like I said, I can't wait to connect back up during the campaign and see where we're at. But
appreciate it. I appreciate your support. It means a great deal to have support from the painters, and feel like we're heading in the right direction.
You know, the members come along with us on the interviews. Is there anything you'd like to say to the membership?
I mean, thank you first and foremost. You know, our economy, our way of life here couldn't exist without people doing the work that the painters and the members do. That goes a long way. So just thank you for that. Thank you for engaging with random political candidates.
Right.
You know, I know it's a learning process for us all, but it really means a lot to have the support for labor, and it's a big part of the work that we have going forward as an Attorney General. Yeah, it's fun to be running for AG for your home state. It's a little bit surreal, you know. Like, I just grew up here, small town. Both my parents are lifelong public servants and veterans, and you don't think that one day you could run to be the people's lawyer, the lawyer for the state of Washington.
Oh God! Me, 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 me.